we have Shivani Peterson. I want to spend like the first 30 minutes or so breaking down your career so that people know really who you are, how you got to where you are, what you're about, and
Why I'm on the call.
yeah, why you're even here, how you got here. And then maybe the last half, we'll focus a little bit on the psychology of the industry and why anybody's here and what drives any of us, what we talked about. So
Yeah.
Shivani, for those of you that are level 3 and know Arjun Dhingra, Arjun is my longest client to date. Literally, he was probably like client number 3, dating back to 2009, maybe 2010. I started in 2009, so it was probably 2010 because in 2009, I only had 2 clients. Arjun came to me at the time. He was doing about 3 units a month and he didn't know what he was doing. And so a mutual friend of ours, Mark Madsen, introduced us. And I worked with him and indirectly with both Shivani and Arjun's brother, Neil. And in a couple years, they were just killing it. I don't remember the exact amount of time, but it wasn't long that Arjun and Neil were collectively doing like 20, 30 units a month. And so it's a really great story. And a sidebar is that Arjun is this world-class Taekwondo martial artist. And so one of my proudest actually coaching moments of all time was that Arjun actually hired me to be his mindset coach, like Tim Grover without all the exercise stuff, to help him win some gold medals. And so together, and that's a whole story in itself, which I'm not going to bore you guys in this story, but it's actually not a bore. It's actually really exciting. But together we won 3 US, European, and world gold medals in Taekwondo with him. So that's actually one of my proudest moments, getting 3 text messages about usually at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., because most of the meets were in Europe or something like that, saying just 1 US, just 1 European, and then finally just 1 gold, and we did it together. So that was pretty cool. Shivani, the sister, and not as much talked about because apparently this is an oppressive patriarchal society, but in the background, she's doing big bad things. And then before she's on the map and you're like, whoa, but I don't think I really expect anything less from this family. So here we are today. So Shivani, welcome. I think you're pretty familiar because everybody remembers you from Q4 Mega anyways. And so what I did on our last call with Denise is, and I'm going to draw this so it's fun, is I want to talk a little bit about like your timeline and how you got into the industry, because I know you're a big producer, but I think to a lot of people, what's always interesting is not so much, oh, let's hear about this big producer and all these really big things that they're doing today. And for some people, it may feel completely unattainable, but more, how did you get your start and how did you get to where you are today? Because you faced a lot of everything from industry challenges to business challenges to maybe even personal challenges and mindset challenges. And I think it's really interesting how different people got to where they are today and their story. My first question is, so if this is using this nice new template that Lindsay created for me, this is 2023. When did you start? When did you get licensed? 2012. Okay. So I think that's the exact same time Denise got licensed, 2012. So if we had to think about, so I call this a highlight reel, right? If you were doing like an ESPN highlight reel and we were to look at the most monumental parts of your career and when things really shifted for you. So like, for example, what was your first year or two like? And then at what point was there like a major change in your career that then took you to the next level and then to the next level? You know what I'm saying? Because usually in somebody's career, there's about maybe 5 or 6 key points that really shifted them. And in between, you're going to do the same for a year or two. So between 2012 and like 2000, what was like the beginning of your career until you made a big shift? And how did you start? Did you just start under Neil and under Arjun, just working for them? How did you start there?
I had graduated college and was working in the salon industry. I graduated with a degree in broadcast journalism,
Okay.
but apparently sucked because I sent my resume tape out for a year and literally no one would hire me. So I was working in the salon industry as a general manager. And then it was the FHA streamline refi though. And Arjun and Neil needed like more people to answer these phones because they would send out mailers for FHA streamlines and then the phones would blow up and they couldn't answer the phones fast enough to do the loans. And I started in that and it was really cool because all of a sudden I'm making 6 figures. And I think it's me.
And so were you
getting
leads from them pretty much? You were just running their business, right?
Yeah. So the mailer would go out and then we'd all be in the office and it would hit. And it'd usually hit where we call it hit, but it was be when people got their mail and were home from work. So it'd be like 4 or 5. All of a sudden the phones started blowing up and it was just answer the phones as fast as you can and originate the loans.
And how long did that last? About a year or two?
Yeah, it was a year or two. And I thought that I was really cool and I was making a lot of money and I wasn't saving any of it.
Of course, 2017. So let's just say it lasted until about here 2014. So I'm going to make a point, especially to the level ones that are on this call. I started in the industry. I knew Tim Brahim, who was a mega originator. He was a 100 million originator. And we're talking like 2000. So 100 million in 2000. That's at least a $200 million producer today. I remember I asked him, I said, why don't I come work for you as an LOA? And he actually said, I don't think that's a good play for you to either be my LOA. And I don't think it's a good play for you to get licensed and just be an originator. I think what you should do is you should go work for a call center, someplace where you're actually fed some leads, because you need a ton of experience. When I kind of want to emphasize the fact that even though we talk about marketing and lead generation and technology and all this stuff, the best originators are just really good at sales because they've really cut their teeth and grinded themselves through a lot of sales scenarios. And I want to, for the first year or two, I got 2 leads a day, which was 10 leads a week. And so that was 500 leads a year. And I did that for almost 2 years. And so I had 1,000 sales calls in terms of experience with sales and rebuttals and rate shoppers and everything like that. And so for you, Shivani, I mean, how many streamlines and how many clients were you handling? Streamlines are a little bit differently, but you were probably handling a lot a day, right?
Yeah. You were doing like five new apps a day.
5 apps a day, right? So 5 a day, 50, and you're talking about 5 a day. So what is that? 25, 100. Yeah. You're dealing with 1,000 people a year. Okay. So then when did you start to transition into, so then that started to end. And then what was your next move from there?
So I was like using that model and getting all those leads. And then just basically all you had to do is show up and be able to write the app as fast as possible. I got to number 3 as producer in our company in the country. Okay. And then my son was born in 2015.
Okay. We'll call that 2015.
And that was tough. Like I always wanted to have kids and always thought, I'll do this great. I've been a nanny forever. This is going to be fine. And it hit me like a pile of bricks. Like trying to manage working and having a kid was not easy for me. And so I fell off the map. And then I had another kid in 2017. And during 2015 and 2017, I'm doing like 3 to 5 loans a month. No one's talking to me. No one's asking me to be on their call. Okay. And I'm just in the business. We've transitioned now
because you had that reality from here, and then from there you just went down from there, right?
Yeah. Okay. And this is this time span where you're calling Zillow leads, you're trying to get your purchase business, you're calling realtors, they're shitting on you. That's what the business looks like at this time.
Yeah. And you were probably doing everything traditionally that you were told, right? Like just reach out to your database, ask for referrals, try to convince a couple of realtors to have coffee, that whole thing. Okay. But then there was a shift around 2017. What did that look like?
So my second son was born in 2017. And when he was about 5 months old, 6 months old, I'm like, I don't want to be a loser anymore. I want to be a top producer again, but I'm not doing this the same way. I don't want to call Zillow leads or realtors and have them treat me like shit. I'm not shit. I don't know who established this totem pole where they're so much higher than us as loan officers, but I'm not down for it. Yeah. I went to college. Yeah. I'm smart. I'm cultured. Like, I don't want to be treated like trash. So I'm like, I'm going to find a way to go direct to the consumer and generate the business myself so that I could pass it out to everybody else. I want to switch the power dynamics here. Okay. And so that's when we started using video. And we started using video, like using Mortgage Coach, using email video, using a little bit of YouTube, text video. And then that quickly morphed into using video on social media.
Social media really like 2018 or so. It really started this period between, because we have probably 2020 here, right? This period right here was probably like that era where I'm going to make that yellow. This was like that era. And then of course it's really blown up since then. And so would you say
2017 to 2020 period is, I always look at it as I was laying this foundation in my business and there wasn't like, sure. Then I started hitting like 10 loans a month and things start to become more stable. I start having business that I can give to realtors. I start having more respect within the local real estate community and it gets good. I hire an LOA, like things get a lot better. Then
when you hire that foundation, a lot of it doing your video, would you say a lot of it is just like your branding, right? People know who you are now
Yeah, building a
And
personal brand, not just online, but locally, like getting on the news, creating local events, starting a charity thing that had a brand, like doing all that stuff, building a community and a personal brand.
right. And so I think this is important because as everybody here is working, as everybody is here is working the top part of their funnel over here, big reach marketing is not just about big reach out to realtors that you want to do business with, but you want to create, you want to reach out to every single realtor in your market to create brand recognition and respect, especially because look what happened in 2021. And we're already starting to see the repeat of that again, going to multiple offers. So you want every listing agent to know who you are as well. And now you're in the Reno market, right? You still in the
Yep.
Reno? Yeah. Reno, I don't think Reno's necessarily a huge market. And so I think it's even more important for a localized market for people to know who you are and doing events. So you build your local brand there. And then, so would you say that like during this period, as you really started being involved and the power shift for you was, that was a mindset too, right? That was a mindset. You're like, no, you guys aren't better than us. I'm not begging you anymore. I'm going to have confidence in myself to say, I'm worth something. I know a lot. I'm going to lead in this industry. That was the biggest shift to say, I'm not playing this game during this time. And then would you say around 2020, that's really when it started to, I mean, it probably curved more like this for you. And then it started to take off.
Because then, so I had this foundation laid in my business in terms of branding and internal processes. And then the stars aligned in terms of market conditions even further in 2020 and everything exploded.
In 2020 explodes. What was in the 20s? So I kind of want to make this a point too, because I want to talk a little bit about processes and everything. But what was like your best year unit wise, especially during that refi boom, right?
I can't remember. I think it was 120 million. It
120
was
million.
312 families.
Okay. So 312 units. Okay. So I'm going to say something about 312 units. 312 units is always impressive, whether it's a purchase market or whether it's a refi boom, because how many people on this call did 312 units during a refi boom? Because there's still a lot of rate shopping during refi booms. There's a lot of processes during refi booms. There's a lot of efficiency to it. I know I can specifically think of one of my clients on this call, not going to name names, but he couldn't do more than 15 units a month because of operational issues. It was with his team or whether it was his company. And so it takes a lot to be able to do 25 units a month, even operationally. What does your team look like right now?
During the year that I did that, it was me and my LOA. And halfway through the year, I got a junior LO.
Okay.
So it was not a good quality of life.
What does your team look like right now, though?
Now I have 2 junior loan officers and an LOA.
Okay. So when you say junior loan officer, so you have 2 of these and then you have 1 LOA. So your junior loan officer, they're kind of like production partners, right? They're licensed. They actually talk to your clients. They can quote rates. They can take apps. They're basically.
And the most amazing thing about mine is that they're smarter than me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's saying a lot because usually Shivani tells everybody that she's smarter than them.
Yes. Like I don't say it to be nice that they're smarter than me. They actually are.
Yeah. 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 I think that's actually one of the biggest issues with loan officers is that loan officers think, and I'm being brutally honest, is that loan officers think that they're smarter than everybody else and they think that they're smarter than their team. And so they won't let go. They won't trust their team to do the important things. And in building your team, what were some of so let's talk a little bit about too. You worked a lot with Arjun and Neil. What were some of the things that you learned from them in terms of building your team in sales? Because here's the thing, I'm looking through this timeline and it's a great timeline. I love a lot of the lessons, but still there were some key moments that I think, so other than branding and video, I still think that there were some key moments where you had probably some things click in terms of your sales ability, in terms of the way that you could talk to clients, in terms of the way that you knew how to talk to realtors and things like that. If you had to name 2 or 3 key things that really allowed you to excel with business, what do you think they are? Was it scripting? Was it the way you conducted meetings? Was it the way you met with clients? Like what is very unique about your business that you think really stands out? And by the way, Lindsay, if you can actually Google, Shivani's been on a couple of mortgage coach interviews, like on YouTube. So if you can find those, Lindsay, on YouTube, I'd like you to post those links in chat and then we can put that in the summary. But I've watched a couple of being on mortgage coach and it's pretty phenomenal how she approaches client consultations. But is that one of them? Like, what are like your 2 or 3 things that make you really unique over somebody else? Do you think it is?
So Arjuna has taught me that people love to talk about themselves. So let them talk about themselves. Just listen. And I've really been interested in psychology my whole life. So right now I'm currently in graduate school to get my marriage and family therapist degree. And I really like figuring out what I love. I thrive in one-on-one situations. I love being one-on-one with a friend, one-on-one on a date. I love being one-on-one where you can get to know somebody, get past I hate surface level conversation. Part
Yeah.
of why I suck at in-person networking events, because I don't like to chit chat. Like I want to have a real conversation with you right away.
Yeah.
And I think that's what drives my relationships with clients and referral partners is I really want to hear their point of view. I really want to hear what's making them do. For example, I think the best way to explain this is now we're talking to clients who have big concerns about the market because the media is very aggressively informing them that housing is something you shouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. So they come into the conversation with serious concerns and fears. But what I've learned about people is what they're saying is never the actual situation. So when someone comes to me and says that they don't want to buy right now because there's going to be a housing crash, my goal then in that conversation is to keep listening to them to figure out what the real fear is. Because I'm not going to take it personally that they don't want to buy. I'm not going to take it personally if they've been told to use an online bank or whatever the thing is. I'm going to keep listening to them and keep prompting them to unwrap this further until I figure out.
Hold on a second, Shivani. Hold on a second. I'm going to mute all and then I'm going to unmute you. Shame on somebody for taking an app or whatever they are during their call. Okay. Anyways, so you really listen to them. And I think that's important because a lot of times when it comes to huddles or people's objections, objection handling, I think we're really quick to not really listen to them. We just want to talk.
And we all have these scripts. Like we've been to Scriptapalooza or we've been trained by someone and we're learning these scripts to address their concern about rate or address their concern about housing, whatever. But we didn't actually listen and pay attention to their body language and how their facial expression changed and the energy between them and the other person in the room, whether it's their partner or parent or whatever. I try really hard to pick up on all those things and then take a moment, consider it from their point of view, validate their concern or fear or obstacle or roadblock, and then start crafting a strategy where we're working together to get past.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. For you to do a considerable amount of units, what is your active role in talking to clients? Because I think that there's always this question. I got this question from like Greg the other day, and I get it from all the time. It's what's your role? And even my coaches, they're very accomplished coaches. And they all have their own opinions, like when they're involved in the loan process. Are they involved in the very beginning? Are they involved later? But specifically for you, when are you involved? So does that conversation, are you like the first person that gets involved? Or are you like the second person because you still have your juniors handle them first and then you have the conversations? Like where are you involved to have that conversation with your clients?
I'm the first person. So
Okay.
I do the discovery call with them. And that's really important to me because I also need to match with which of my juniors is best equipped to work with them personality wise. So I need to get to know them. I need to do that discovery call with them and make sure I'm pairing them appropriately with the best person on our team because that helps with retention.
Okay. So you have a discovery call and have you created like a template for it? Are there generally 5 general questions or a direction that you ask? Or at least you've probably memorized it, right? You have a direction of the discovery call? Because aside from what are you trying to do? What are you trying to buy? Do you literally ask them things like, so what are your concerns about the market? Do you think that you lead them in any questions that are a little bit different?
Yeah. So the way the process works is I have that initial discovery call as a phone call and I'll do the basics and go over like walking them through the process. I find it's really important for people to know what to expect. They feel a lot safer and a lot more trustworthy when they know what this thing is going to look like. What is the process? What do I expect? And then I ask them about their goals because you could assume the goal is to buy a house or to get a refinance, but what's the real goal? What are the real things motivating you right now? And then is there anything I always I can combine 5 questions into one by just saying, is there anything you feel like I need to know?
Now, when you ask people about their goals, do you ever ask them about, because we hear a lot of this from, let's say like the art of homeownership guys and everything. Are you talking about like wealth goals or do you just go down the gamut?
I just want to know goals. And then I leave a lot of awkward silences.
Shivani's the master of awkward silence, by the way.
The things people will say when you just don't fill the silence will help you understand everything you need to know so much faster than prompting them.
Very interesting.
Also, I'm taking time to consider what you've just said.
So let me ask you this question. What are some examples of things that you've discovered in calls that people have said that you thought were game changers in your relationship with them, or your ability to turn them around because maybe they didn't want to buy, but now they do, or maybe they wanted to rate shop you, but now they didn't? Like, what are some examples of some sort of game changing answers that you've gotten?
So the key to the awkward silence, I feel like, is you're looking at them like, or you're listening intentively. Like you're not multitasking, you're not doing anything else. If they're sitting in your office or if you're on the phone, you're just sitting there listening. And then because they don't know what's going on, they keep talking. But there's also a shift in power that happens there. Because of course, when you're babbling, you're the one begging them for something. But as you're
Or
just listening to them, all of a sudden they're like, she's not that eager. But also, I'm not shifting power in a way that I'm trying to make it so that you feel like I'm an asshole. Like I'm shifting power in this way so that you can understand that I'm here to help you. I'm on your team. I'm not trying to force you to do something you don't want to do. We're going to go slow here or we're going to go fast. You're going to dictate how quick this goes.
less talk, slower to respond generally portrays confidence. And confidence portrays, I don't need your business. Tell me why you want to work with me. Or tell me why you're choosing me, or tell me how badly you want this. It's the power shift that you're talking about. And you're pretty,
So many people will call you for a pre-approval. Everyone on this call has been called by someone for a pre-approval who says, I don't really think now's a good time to buy. Then why are you calling me? What are we doing here?
yeah.
You don't
So
want to
for
buy
example,
a house?
like
You
here's a
call me
hard
to
one.
help you buy a house?
So here's a hard one. And generally I'm the only one in the industry that gets away with these questions, right? Because number one, I do, and because I'm Asian. So I'm sure you being of Indian descent, sometimes we deal with borrowers that are very like, high and mighty. I have 720 credit score. You don't need that. I pre-approve for all this stuff. And I'm sure there's situations sometimes where they want to stand off with you, and you'll just sit there and you'll say, so what do you need from me then? If you're so high and mighty, like, how do you handle those? Is that an example of a situation that you've tended to diffuse a little bit with that style?
No. So when someone's like that, that can make us feel really uncomfortable. Psychologically, that makes us feel like, I don't like this power shift that's happening right now. I feel like you are coming at me like you're better than me.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, have learned in these situations when someone's acting like that, it's coming from a place of insecurity on their end. So I try to give them some grace and think about what is causing them to feel insecure about something that they're talking like this. So let me figure out where that point of insecurity is.
Mhm.
And then if I can address that and make them feel safe in that space, they'll stop talking to me like that.
I think everybody's going to sign up for their psychology degree after this call. So it's good. I think everybody knows why we're calling this as the psychology of the industry, because this is what I keyed upon when I was first talking to Shivani. And so this is interesting. How long is typically a discovery call for you?
That one's actually not that long. That's 15 minutes tops.
15 minutes. Okay.
Then I
And-
send them to do the application online. And then
So how much, and I'm curious because I really want to break this down for people that are really interested. So you talk about the process, you talk about what to expect, their goals. Do I need to know anything? That's a critical one. You use a lot of awkward silence. You're trying to gauge their personality so you can pick the right junior LO. Less talk, find points of insecurity. How much are you really asking them about qualification information, or very little, because you're pretty much talking about, okay, you want to buy a home here, but is it more, let's talk about your thoughts about being a homeowner? You're not really getting into qualification, right?
no, that's
Okay.
why I send them to the online app. And then I'll go over their qualification once I get their app back and do their pre-approval and look at the financing strategies for them and put together the mortgage coach. And then I set up the in-person meeting or Zoom meeting where we go over their financials specifically.
So you purposely do this as a phone call because it's quick. Let me just get you on the phone. Let me build some rapport with you. Let's create a relationship. Let me figure out what your things are. And then after you send the online app, and I'll break that down, but that's when you want more of that face-to-face. You want the Zoom because you're going to show options and everything else. Now, somewhere along the line, because I do want to unpack this. Do you send it to your junior LO next? Like, where are they in this process generally?
The junior LO usually jumps in when we're doing the pre-approval, if we'll do it together, to brainstorm like the best financing strategies for them.
So this is still in your court. Like, you look at the online app. So
Yeah.
the junior LO doesn't look at the online app. Yeah.
They can. We'll do it
Huh?
together sometimes, but most of the time it's me qualifying them. And then I loop my junior LO. When I introduce them to my junior LO and introduce the team is during that meeting, that Zoom or that in-person meeting when we're going over
Okay.
their
Got it.
qualification.
Okay. So you look at the app, you qualify, and then you're going to have the Zoom, and then you're also going to loop in junior LO away, right? Because at this point, and we talked about this during the mega, is that you really want to edify your team at this point so that they see them as an important thing. And I think a lot of times loan officers don't do that. They do this whole, it's me and you, it's me and you. And then it's, oh yeah, my assistant's going to call you. And then all of a sudden that assistant is treated like this low level person that they never want to respond to, instead of really bringing them in from the beginning. Now let's look at your process too, because I think your process is important. In your Zoom process, how much do you do a full mortgage coach, that type of stuff? And is it fair to say, because I think there's a lot of critics of mortgage coach in the sense that that can be overkill. Like, why do I need to do that if I'm just trying to quote a rate, or if I'm just going to show them what the payment is in down payment? But for me, I think it's a combination of professional presentation, but you're also personally branding yourself and you're separating yourself as somebody who does like a more thorough job. So would you say that you're 100% mortgage coach in doing Zoom presentations, even if it's like the simplest thing, or there's some exceptions when you do these?
No, we always, every single pre-approval gets a mortgage coach. Every refi gets a mortgage coach.
Yeah. And so I think that's a big determining factor, because now how long is this Zoom typically?
So Jeremy just asked, like, how do I get them to agree to come to the Zoom or the in-person meeting? I send them. So when I've received their application and I've gone through their qualification and they've given me everything I need to actually qualify them, I send them an email that says, this is your max price point. Here's a mortgage coach showing you what monthly payments and cash to close look like at this point. I don't tell them that they're actually pre-approved at this point. I say, next step is to hop on a Zoom or set up a meeting to go over that information and discuss next steps. So they don't feel like they're done yet. That's how I get them to agree to that.
Okay. Okay.
And they always have questions on the mortgage coach. Yeah. After the app is complete. I
By the way,
they're
to answer
done.
that
I'm just
question,
not telling you.
Jeremy, to answer that question, Jeremy, I think a lot of times people have an apprehension of Zoom because they feel like, oh, I'm going to be like on this video call with you. Here's the reality. You don't need to see their face. They just need, it's better to see their face, because I think Shivani would agree that you're creating a personal connection with them. But if for some reason there is this apprehension, there's a couple ways you can approach it. Is your concern because you want me to see your face? Honestly, since pandemic, I've seen everybody. I've seen everything from people being in bathrobes to their dogs and cats sitting on the lap. It really doesn't matter. But to the biggest degree, you can just say, you don't need to turn your camera on, but we need to have a Zoom because I need to be able to visually show you some options.
I've never had anybody not want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally don't see it as much of an issue. So Jeremy, maybe we can unpack that in a different time, but for people to be standoffish, that might be, I don't know, or maybe sometimes it's just the process, because the reality of it is that here's what I'm going to say about processes. Every single part of your process is important, from how you branded yourself, how you were referred, that first conversation, everything all the way down. And I think that's where you have to be introspective of that personal brand and that value that you're creating, because Zoom should be an inherent value-based conversation that people should see. But if you're being referred to people like, oh yeah, call Kai because he's got the best rates, and you're just taking apps over the phone and it's now let's do a Zoom meeting. And they're like, why do we need a Zoom meeting? I just called you for the rate. And all you've been doing is you've been taking my income and assets and you've been touted as like the lowest rates in town. Of course, they're not going to want the Zoom, right? But you're somebody who, even from the very first phone conversation, you're listening to them, you're building rapport with them, you're showing them options, you're doing everything visually, even your branding, your marketing and everything. It's like, why wouldn't I want to have a Zoom conversation with Shivani, right? That's a lot different. And so I think everybody should really look at their entire process. I could say the same thing for me. I sit on Zooms with people all the time. I do discovery calls. I do webinars and everything, but this is a very personal business, especially coaching. So you have to create that. Okay. So anyways, so you do that Zoom. And how long is your typical Zoom meeting?
They're usually 30 to 45 minutes.
30 to 45 minutes. Okay.
If they come into the office, it's definitely more like 45 to an hour.
Okay. Being in a smaller market, right? Being in a smaller market. Okay. I love a lot of this. And please, everybody, watch Shivani's YouTube videos. And I think that'll unpack a lot of what she talks about during the calls. And I wish we had time to go through the whole thing, but I also want to unpack a little bit with you some of the other stuff about, our own psychology of being in this business. So yeah, watch those YouTube videos and you'll see how Shivani will go through YouTube conversations. And I love what you said about the 2-1 buy downs. Should I do a 2-1 buy down? Should I take a seller concession? Should I do this? And Shivani's, it's not for me to decide, right? You basically tell people, it's for me to show people options and let them decide. and I can walk them through it. And I think what you're really saying is, based on this conversation today, is that you're very client centric, focused, and making them feel heard. You're helping them overcome their insecurities, and you're creating a connection that they're not going to get with anybody else. And in turn, I would have to think that you're getting a lot of referrals from that as well, and how they connect you with people, similar people like that. Do you have a
Yeah.
specific way of asking for referrals, by the way?
No.
No? Do they just happen? Okay.
But what is part of my client, like once someone is referred to me as a lead, whether they end up buying or they don't, they become a part of my ecosystem. So then they're a part of my community, and they get invited to things, and they get my videos, and they come to my webinars, and they come to the in-person events if they can. And so when they're a part of the ecosystem, I think that in itself is asking for referrals, because it's constantly reminding them of the value I provide.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the last 15 minutes, I do want to talk about something that's really important, because as we mentioned your timeline, there's some key things that I think really plague a lot of loan officers, but there were some key moments in your career when you faced difficulty, whether it was being a mother or burnout or things like that. And you even questioned your own motives for doing things. And I think one of the things that you said is, as you were building your team, you even questioned yourself. You're like, why am I doing this? Am I just doing this because everybody else does this? Or do I really want to do this? I think one of the big questions that I hear, especially when I bring on, like last week, we had on Denise Donahue, right? And so Denise does 600 units a year. And what's really interesting is that it's almost, there's this divide where half of us will say, oh my God, I would love to do 600 units a year. I just want to bathe in money all day. And then there's the other half of people going, I don't want to do 600. I would never want to do that much business, because think of the responsibility, and think of like the time, and think of all this stuff, which in a lot of ways is true and untrue at the same time. And it was funny when I first heard the quote, a lot of people don't feel failure, they actually fear success. That's actually an example, because if I said to you, if I could give you Denise's business tomorrow, I know a lot of people that said, I would love the money, but I don't really want her business because they fear success. Or just even me, there are some people like, you know what I would fear about Denise's business if somebody gave it to me? I would say, so wait, I got to make a video every day? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to make a video every single day. But there were some moments in your career that you really questioned why you did things. I'm sure even when you started to do video, you're like, why am I doing this? Or like, why am I building a team? And all those moments. So what were some of your challenges? And like everybody else, you have to wake up every single day and still feel inspired and motivated. Let's talk a little bit about some of those key points in the last 5-10 years.
So I feel like I didn't have a bunch of these moments of like, why am I going to do this? I kept moving it. I'm having those moments now.
Okay. Let's hear that now.
So
because now wait, I've made it. And that happens a lot too. So what does that sound like? It's because, and maybe this is really interesting for our level 3s. Is it because you're at the moment, I've gotten to where I am, I've built the team, but what's my purpose? Is that the question you're asking yourself?
Or what's going to be the next challenge? Because the big thing was being the number one producer in our company. And then I did it. And then now the last year has really been into like pouring into my team, like helping my 2 loan partners become like producing loan officers so they could someday launch and have their own teams. And that's that's a huge challenge, like to figure out how to get someone to get out of their own way and get to where you are is hard, right? Because your brain doesn't tick the same way theirs does. So that coaching component has been a huge challenge in having a team, because I feel like I'm their coach. So I'm looking for, what is the next big challenge? What's it going to be?
Yeah, I think that as we go through the levels, I think a lot of the level 3s can relate to this, because level 1, you're like, man, I just want to do a lot of business. And the level 2, you're stuck in this, okay, I have some business now. I'm doing about 10 units a month, and I want to build a team because I want to be like this top producer. And then the level 3s, they get there and it's okay, I'm this top producer and I want to do these really cool things. Greg's texting me in the morning. We're like, okay, we're going to build the funnels and everything like that. And that's really interesting. But still at some point in time, you're like, so what am I waking up for every single day? So is it like a business challenge? Is it a growth challenge? Is it a giving back challenge? And I'm going to tell you something too. And I hate to admit this, but at least for me, because I'm older, so I'm going to turn 50 in March, right? I'm literally going through these middle-aged challenges. It's so embarrassing for me to say that, because I'm like, okay, so wait a second. So I had the kids, They're going to college. I'm going to be an empty nester. I've established myself in the business. I have a shit ton of fun. I go to all the sports and Laker games when I travel. And so now that my kids are moving out, is this just like what I'm going to do for the next 20 years and just wake up every single day and go through the motions? And I think that's definitely a personal journey, a spiritual journey. What have you done? And I think it's the answer. And also too, I read someplace that we go through these sort of 5 to 7 year phases, big phases with our lives. And if you look at your timeline, you're right at about that between 2017 and 2013. You're right at about that 6-year mark, and you're trying to figure out what the next step is. You decided right now to pour into your business. And Crystal, you wrote so relatable because Crystal said the same thing. I did 500 units. And I think Crystal's motivation right now is to now give back and build team members. And that's all I've seen Crystal do. Is that your next phase? Are you looking to pump up some of these junior LOs or bring some people on or recruit and things like that? What are you thinking?
Yeah, because I feel like that's really hard. It's really hard to get people to get to that level. You see it, right? You coach people all the time. It's hard to get people out of their own way and help them overcome their obstacles. And I like that challenge. I like that it's really hard. And I want to help a lot of people do it.
Yeah. And it's a personal challenge for you. You're motivated, inspired by those personal challenges.
Yes.
And so do you have an aspiration to build a mega team, or do you want to go more in the way of building a branch? And believe me, I would say about half of these people in my coaching curriculum have asked themselves that question. Do I build a super team? Do I build a branch? Do I recruit? Like, where has your head gone? What are you thinking so far?
So I want to be able to help people more like one at a time. So I brought on my first team member, Sandy, and she joined, I think, in 2020. And she's a whole different person than who she was when I met her.
Okay.
And I take a lot of pride in that. There's nothing wrong with her before, but she has so much confidence. And I love when people say, Sandy's so different since teaming up with you. And then now I'm doing that with Taylor. And like, we're going to get her past every single obstacle in her way. And then I want to do it with somebody else. I thought about having a branch, and as Neil's focus has shifted, he's oftentimes asked me to take over his branch, but something doesn't seem right about it. It doesn't seem like it's the best use of my time and energy at the moment.
It feels like what you're not so much interested in is things that are of a transactional nature versus a relationship nature, because even your growth, and I've had quite a few conversations with Crystal about this, but it's not so much about, can I build a branch? Can I make my brand bigger? Can I build a super team? It's what can I do to help individuals and really pour myself into personal development and personal growth with them. And you've really have taken a passion for that and looking at people. And there's something fun about when you identify like a protege and say, this person has like a ton of talent and I think that they can go a lot of places, and what can I do to develop them? But at the same time, you're continuing to build your business. Do you still find that there are some strategic challenges that you want to do? And I would actually say yes, because you're going to get involved with us shortly. And so I'm sure there's still some strategic things that you want to build in your business at the same time.
Yeah. I need the business. To this day, I work in my business way too much. During 2020 to 2022, the hours worked was insane, and the time away from my family was not okay. And so I'm focusing really hard on that. And that means streamlining the business, making it run better.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I found about that, and we talked about it in the beginning, Ty, is that I find that process, you've never arrived at it, because then the market changes and you need to change your whole workflow, your whole sales process to adapt to a new market. Because like right now, if we're selling a personal brand that's all Shivani, and then I'm trying to pass them off to a teammate and they don't talk to Shivani ever again, that's a problem, because I've sold them on me.
Right.
So I have to be incorporated into every step of the process. There has to be my touch, my personal involvement in every step of the process right now, because that's what the market dictates to retain the client. And then the market will be different next year. And then the market will be different after that. So perfecting your business and your processes, you lay a foundation that takes a ton of the work done. And then you have to a little bit adapt it every time the market cycles.
It's a little bit of both too, right? Because you're out there, you created a personal brand, especially on social, especially on video. And so number one, if they hear about Shivani a lot, it's like going to Wolfgang Puck's restaurant and you never see Wolfgang Puck. I want to hear from Shivani. I at least want to see her videos every once in a while. But also it's a little bit of the reverse too. You look at your people and you say, how do I incorporate them into my personal brand? Are they going to be involved in my videos? Are we going to see their faces too? So it's also a natural transition.
And you have to be realistic about what you expect from people. When everyone meets you and joins your team, they're going to want to be on your team forever. They
Yeah.
love you. They've been
Yeah.
sold on you. But know that naturally, as their careers evolve, they might want to do their own thing. They might want to do the same thing you've done. And
Yeah.
you can't stop them from wanting that.
Greg, I've actually seen some of your videos and I don't know exactly if I see them as I'm scrolling through. And I don't know if you're sitting with real estate agents or people on your team, but I do recommend if some of you are going to do videos, one of the easiest things for you to do is to do a video with a team member and to talk about a process with the team member. So let's just say you're talking about whether you're still talking about buy downs, you're talking about concessions, you're talking about VA, why not have your LOA or junior LOA next to you on video and just have a conversation with them and say, hey, so today we're going to talk about VA lending. And if you're in remote offices, you can just do a video like this where you're side by side and just have a conversation. And if you start to have those conversations where it's not just Shivani, but it's Shivani and her team members, then now they're getting personally branded in all of your videos. And it's still you too, but now they're getting personal branding. So they're seeing them as much as they're seeing you. And that's a really good idea for all of you that are doing video. And also too, it makes doing video a lot easier because you're just having a conversation with your team member. You don't have to sit and try to recite some script. So that's a good idea for everybody to do. And you're right, this is a changing market. And so we're always trying to figure out like what the next thing and trying to stay fluid with everything.
Flexibility is the currency of opportunity.
Yeah.
I love that quote.
The currency of opportunity. What do you think? So in your opinion, since we talked about changing markets, and I know this is a loaded question, so we can unpack it different ways, but what do you think the 2023 market is and beyond? And I don't just mean in terms of housing and everything like that, but do you see a certain shift in the way consumers are interacting with consumers or fear and things like that? And I would say based on a lot of your conversations with people too, like where do you think the market's going this year?
So I felt really strongly for a lot of years that like we were going to become obsolete, that the AI would get good enough that even a complicated self-employed borrower with 15 pass-through LLCs was not going to need me anymore to do their loan. And so if we didn't establish some reason to distinguish ourselves, then they weren't going to need to use me. They were going to just go through a computer. And that's part of the reason I started grad school, because I was like, I need to continuously add value to make myself relevant in this process. But this market has shown me that maybe that's not as quickly on the horizon as I thought. Yes, technology needs to be incorporated. Yes, everything needs to be really easy for the consumer to do. But I think that the consumer has real concerns about a market and they need someone that they can trust as an advisor. So if you can be that advisor to people, I think you have to be less scared of becoming obsolete.
I don't know. I don't know how this sounds. It's still like the year of fear. That's what you're saying. When you talk about insecurities, when you talk about asking them questions like, is there something that I need to know about the awkward science? What you're saying is that what AI can address is AI can address people's fears, people's concerns, people's goals. And to build a business model, a discovery business model, a relationship business model, a rapport business model around that really matters. And to be able to solidify that. And would you say too, that even in your messaging, Shivani, you're on Instagram, right? What's your Instagram handle? Is it Shiv Peter? Peter. Okay. So that's her IG. I recommend everybody follow her on Instagram. I love your videos. But even I've watched some of your videos and you do topic a lot of your videos on fear of the market. You talk about that quite a lot in your market. It's this is happening and there's a fear that's this. So it's not just so transactionally mechanical, because you're realizing that people are out here buying and it is a big, bad, scary thing. And it is a big investment and people want to know, am I making the right decision by doing this or by doing that? And that's what you're really addressing, because these are pretty freaking major decisions. It's not about whether I should put 20% down or 10% down, or why don't you take the 2-1 buy down because mathematically this makes more sense. It's like, no, there's a lot of really mental, emotional decisions here. And so what you're saying is even in your videos, you're creating a theme about that. And it's probably drawing a certain type of, would you say that sometimes when people call you, they'll say, I heard you say this video, or nobody's ever listened to me like that. I'm sure you're getting a lot of that theme as you work with people.
Oh yeah. Because first of all, when you have a personal brand, which a ton of the people on this call do, they know, right? People call you as a warm lead. They feel like they already know you because they've associated with your brand prior to that phone call.
Yeah.
So they already know your point of view and your take and your stance on things.
Yeah.
So when they call, they're already I love it when they say, I feel like I already know you from watching your videos. That's my favorite. Then I'm like, okay, this is all worth it because making these videos is a fucking full-time job. But when you're talking to them and they're feeling heard, even if they don't say it, you know that they're feeling that because you can feel when you have a connection with someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the fun of the whole game.
Yeah. Somebody asked me the other day, they basically asked me a question. What kind of video should I do? Should I do qualification videos? Should I do market videos? And I said, I think the best way to describe it, and I think you're proving my point, is you need to do leadership videos. You need to lead people. And when you lead people, you're leading people on different things. You could lead people on the transactional value. You can lead them on the financial value. You can lead them on overcoming fear. You can lead them on dispelling myths of the market and what's going
Lead
on.
them on something that you authentically feel
Yeah.
strongly about. Because find the thing, because there is some reason for every single person why they're in this business and what they feel strongly about. Maybe it's that appraisers suck. So start with some content about that. Whatever it is, find something that you feel actually strongly about and then talk about that in your video.
Yeah. So I always think about you, Nick, because we've been talking a lot about your content and video, but I'm big on right now telling people, if you want to do video, do what I call remixes. So remix is, you should really spend the first 20 minutes of your day or something like that, just being you. Go out there and watch content, whether it's Shivani's content or our content or Denise's content or Mortgage Coach content or anybody's content, KCM content. And what moves you, what drives you, that gives you an opinion on the market, that gives you an opinion on the mortgage industry, that gives you an opinion on financing, and then do a remix. I heard a bunch of this stuff. I'm going to take what a lot of people said and I'm going to remix it into a 2-minute video. I'm going to hit record and I'm going to go. So you don't necessarily always have to come up with something new. Just do something that just moved you. If you like, I've played over and over again the Patrick Bet-David video where he talks about you can make good money making sales, but if you do marketing, you make a ton of video. And I just want to remix that 20-second clip because I feel so passionately about it. And literally, Shivani will take this as a compliment. If you see one of her videos and you feel passionate about it and you want to remix it and do it and add some, then do that. But that's what leaders do. We're not sitting here just trying to create a library of these transactional, strategical videos all the time, because you can really get that anywhere. But what you can't get is you can't get a personality and you can't get a video. And I'm going to tell you, in 2020, when pandemic happened, that was actually when I really had, a lot of you have been coaching clients with me for a while, but it was really 2020 that I said, holy crap, I'm being faced. And then 2022, which was a crazy year, I said, I'm faced with leading a group of people that are literally standing on the ledge right now. And I got to keep them off the ledge and I got to keep them motivated. And so even my conversations and some of these training Tuesdays, it's not just about, this is the new strategy. It's like, guys, and it's not raw, but this is what we should do. This is what we should keep it together. And this is why I brought on Shivani today. So we're coming to the end, but I love that. So there is a personal touch. It's the psychology of the industry. It's a psychology of leadership. What moves you will probably move somebody else. And that's going to create the most authentic self and brand that you can create. And I love that journey. And hopefully, Shivani, as we close up, not only will we get to work more, if there's a place for you to interact with some of my other clients, I think that that would be a great thing. But we're in talks, we're in negotiation. She sent me her agent. I'm going to send her my agent. We're going to negotiate. We're going to know what that is. But but a lot of it's the same. It's like the kick in the pants that we need. And I say sometimes we just overthink this industry too much. Just be passionate about it and watch your stuff. So Shivani, thanks. Do you have any closing statements for anybody? Whether it's just be your fucking self or don't let realtors push you around. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I would love to just stay connected with everybody. So like Kai said, please follow me and then DM me. Tell me okay, I liked that video, or I'm going to rip off this video. I'm going to put my own spin on it and we can talk about it, because I feel like this can be lonely. This world of sales, it can be really super lonely. And obviously you guys are part of a great community here. And that's huge. That's great for probably the single most important thing you can do in your business is find people who make you don't want to jump off a cliff, not want to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, jump off the ledge. Okay. Anyways, thanks, Shivani, for being here. I love the conversation today. And I think for a lot of you, it's probably what you needed. And really, it started with if you looked at her, timeline, it really started in 2017 when she said, I'm not lower than the realtors. I'm not lower than consumers. I'm here. It's got to be a shift to power. And you've got to create that mindset first. And you need to say, I'm the leader. And then from being the leader, you can inspire others and you can lead others. So anyways, I really appreciate your time.